So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is John Lacey and I'll be your host. I work for the University of Tennessee system and I'm one of the organizers of the Pandemic to Possibility webinar series. But let's have a little fun this morning to warm up. If everybody could take a second and type in the chat your physical location. Let's see who's the furthest away this morning. And maybe Nick, you can monitor that and see who's kind of our winner for being the furthest away. We're so grateful to our speakers for dedicating their time and sharing their expertise with us. Before I introduce them, let me just spotlight you for a moment. We have more than 130 people registered to attend today. You represent a wide range of organizations, including AAA, the Alzheimer's Association, Random Acts of Flowers, and Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of everyone involved, welcome. And if I didn't mention your organization, feel free to give it a shout out in the chat. And Nick, do we have anybody who's really far away that you can see? I see Oxford, Mississippi. That's pretty far.
Yeah, we have Oxford, Mississippi. We have Georgia. I saw Georgia, Peachtree City, Georgia.
Okay, so great. So welcome everybody. This morning we're presenting social media and storytelling, strategies for engaging and informing audiences during the pandemic. Here's what you're going to learn with us this morning. Brian, if you'll switch over. We're going to learn how to utilize storytelling strategies to maximize audience engagement and achieve your goals. We'll hear a case study from a Knoxville-based small business, the Balloon Garden. We'll learn how to monitor and measure effectiveness on social media platforms and the resources that are available to you. Two housekeeping points. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the chat box and we can bring them up during the Q&A following the presentation. And of course, we expect everyone to follow a code of conduct that is outlined on the webinar website. So with that, allow me to introduce our presenters. We have with us today, Brian Canover. In his role as public relations specialist for the UT Knoxville Office of Communications and Marketing, Brian is responsible for doing what he does best. That's telling the university's story to audiences throughout Tennessee and around the world. Prior to joining UT, he spent 7 years as a freelance writer and a consultant, contributing to media outlets ranging from the Knoxville News Sentinel to ESPN. He earned a master's degree in journalism and electronic media from UT Knoxville, where he also teaches as an adjunct faculty member. From UT Knoxville, we also have with us Courtney Carpenter-Childress. She's an associate professor in the School of Advertising and Public Relations. In addition to her faculty role, she serves as the executive director of the Adam Brown Social Media Command Center. The center provides faculty, staff, and students access to the same leading technology that Fortune 100 companies worldwide use to publish, engage, and analyze their social media marketing activities. And finally, we have Colleen Martin and Ashley Reed, co-founders and owners of the Balloon Garden, a Knoxville-based boutique balloon company that opened in May of 2020 and that offers unique customization and balloon design services. Within the first 2 months of business, these UT Knoxville alumni, business partners, and next door neighbors had blown up more than 5,000 balloons, congratulated 7 brides, welcomed 6 new babies, rooted no mo chemo for 2 strong women, and even got to be part of an adoption day. So you'll hear more about their background and their business venture in a little bit. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian to get us started.
Alrighty, how is everybody doing today? You can tell me in the chat if you're doing awesome. So I want to start off, and I just want to say, we're doing this. It's a webinar, right? We're working through a PowerPoint. So I'm just going to ask y'all to give me and give us some grace today, in case we get a little lost in the slide. So if you want to give us some grace, you can shoot it in the chat. You got the grace. This grace is going your way. Hey, Joy. So I'm so excited to chat with you today, right? And I'm going to start off by talking about storytelling, right? And so I want to start by saying we should all know what our brand's story is, what our organization or what our business's story is. So the question here is, do you know what your business or your organization or your nonprofit's story is? And I want you to think broadly here, right? So this goes beyond your mission and your vision, which hopefully you've memorized, right? It's your values as a business or an organization, but it's also more than that too. It's what you want your audience to know about you that's essential for grabbing their attention. So if you think about your organization as a book in a library, this is, your audience picks it up, and this is what would keep them reading and flipping the pages, right? And going to new chapters. Or since we're talking about social media today, like this is when you're scrolling on Instagram, this is what makes them stop and be like, oh, wow, like what? I want to click on this, right? I want to read this. They take the time. They don't just keep scrolling, right? So it's something that would spark attention. So that you have a couple of examples, I'm going to mention some that I think, some organizations and businesses that I think tell their stories really well, right? So this one, if you may or may not be familiar with this, this is Always, right? Women's product brand. This is a campaign that they did back in 2015. It premiered at the Super Bowl, and it was called Like a Girl, right? It challenged all these stereotypes of what it means to be a girl or to be a woman. The video is super emotional. I'm gonna pop in a link later to a YouTube playlist that I created with all the examples that I'm gonna provide you, so you can look at them later and probably cry, because I cried a lot watching some of these videos, right? And the whole idea is about empowerment and strength, right? And that's part of Always' story. Like, we empower, we strengthen women beyond our products. This is what our brand is about, and that's what their story is about. And you see it in this image right here, right? This campy brave box with X straight through it, and a young girl kicking through it, right? Big brothers, big sisters, an incredible organization. They know what their story is, right? Their story is about togetherness. It's about mentorship. It's about us, right? It's not about here, come and do something great for somebody and only they're going to benefit, right? No, it's together we ignite potential. And it's regardless of whether it's Los Angeles or it's right here in East Tennessee, which our agency last year won the National Big Brothers Big Sisters Agency of the Year award, right? The messaging is always the same. The story is always the same. And here I got to mention UT, right? Because I work at UT Knoxville. This is from a campaign that we launched earlier this year called Mask Up, when we made the announcement that to be on campus, in order to have an on-campus semester, we were going to require the members of our community to wear masks on campus when they're together, right? We put together a video campaign. I'm going to share that video also with you later, so you can take a look at it after our presentation, right? And it was all about helping defend other people's families. We have a military man right here in this example, but we have examples from students, from faculty members. The whole thing is, we're the University of Tennessee, right? We're the volunteers. We act, we do, we carry the torch, we care for our community. So this is what we're asking you to do. We're asking you to mask up, right? Now, social media plays a really important role in telling your story, obviously. That's why we're here talking about it today. So I'm gonna ask you to drop this information in the chat, because I want a little bit of engagement today. I'm a big engager, right? So what platforms do you use to promote your business or organization? So drop it in the chat just so I can see what social media platforms are you actively using for your business, right? LinkedIn, love LinkedIn, right? Facebook, Insta, Twitter. I call Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter the holy trinity, right, of social media. Most people, most businesses and organizations use those three, right? I love seeing LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn as a platform. YouTube, of course, right? Great. Okay, Facebook and Insta, love it. Oh, it's getting me excited that you all are using social media at least to tell your stories, right? If I were to ask this question to, like, my dad who runs a small business, he'd be like, I don't have social media at all. I tell it through word of mouth. No, nowadays in 2020, we have to use social media to tell our stories. Okay. So I'll also want to ask you, and I'm actually going to ask you to participate in this one in a second. What role has social media played for your business or your organization during the pandemic? And what I'm going to do is I just switched over a slide, and we're going to practice doing this poll, right? So there's a link at the top. If you have your cell phone, so if you're watching on your laptop, or if you have a laptop available, go to pollev.com/BrianCanover727, right? And in one or two words, tell me the role social media has played for your business during the pandemic. It can be lifeline, essential, communication, growth, non-existent, right? Epic fail, right? I just want to have an idea of how you've been using social media during COVID-19. Okay. As you start typing them in, thanks, Nick. As you start typing those in, they'll start to populate a word cloud, right? Okay. Badly. Oh, okay. Growth. And you can pop in two. If you have like two words that you want to use, you can use two. You can resubmit. Virtual experiences, love it. Relationships, yeah. Promoter, intentional. Great, I love seeing this. Okay. Building, let's all take a look. These words are super powerful and they're pertinent for us, right? Inconsistent information. Now, what I'm going to ask, as I'm looking at these words, I would love to ask if I'm going to call on a specific word here. If you don't mind unmuting yourself and just giving me, 30 seconds of an explanation as to why you put in this word. So let's say inconsistent, right? Whoever put inconsistent, do you mind unmuting yourself and telling me just in, 15 to 30 seconds why social media has been inconsistent for you? Okay. It's not inconsistent. Anybody else? You can type in the chat if you don't mind. Oh, you can't unmute yourself. All right. You may not have permission to unmute yourselves. So how about you all type it in the chat, right? Lack of resources to manage different platforms. Yes, I think if anybody agrees with Alex on that, let's drop retweet in there, right? Like I'm gonna retweet that, right? That's what social media has been like for me, Alex, right? There's been a lot of inconsistency because you don't have the resources to manage all of it, right?
Brian, everybody should be able to unmute now, hopefully.
Okay, perfect. Sweet. Okay. Retweet. Yeah. All right. Let me pick another one. So intentional. Whoever put intentional, do you mind unmuting yourself and telling me why it's been intentional for you? And tell me your organization too. Still can't? Okay.
Brian, I can unmute now. Hey, it's Melissa,
Yay.
UT System. How are you?
I'm so good.
So I put intentional because in social media, at least from a UT System perspective, I feel like we had to really be, intentional about what we're communicating to our publics. To me, it was more focused communication. Because you don't want to overwhelm your audience. So we tried to pick out the things that matter, that we felt like mattered the most to our audiences, and engaged in social media in that manner.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. That's Melissa with UT System. Now I'm seeing big in there. I love that. That's just so beautiful and simple. Whoever put big, do you mind unmuting yourself, telling me, your organization and why it's been a big thing for you? Hey, I think it's Tara Davis, right? I see you wanted to talk, but I'm not hearing you. You know what? Let's keep it moving. If anybody else, let's see. What other word? So educate. Whoever put educate, do you mind? Oh, it's okay, Tara. That's why we're giving each other grace, all the grace this morning. Whoever put educate, do you mind telling me why you put educate? Still having unmute problems. You know what? It's all right. Right. Let's pop them in the chat. So you can drop in the chat why you picked the word that you picked. Right. So we kind of keep things moving. Why did it play these roles for you? And thanks for contributing. I love that you all did this. I love word clouds. Right. Connection, communication, building, virtual. I love that we're seeing a lot of positive words here. Right. There's been a lot of pros and a lot of cons to using social media to tell your story throughout the pandemic. Right. What are some of those pros? Creativity, obviously, right? Brands have creatively pivoted to serve people, right? Your brand may have done this, right? If you have, like, congratulations. It's not easy to be creative, especially with the kind of pressure that many of us have been under for the past 9 months, right? an example of a brand that pivoted to serve people, and I'll drop this, it's in that YouTube playlist that I'm gonna send you all later. Prestige Cleaners here in Knoxville. Prestige Cleaners, they make, they do dry cleaning, they do tuxedos, right? They fix your broken stuff, right? Typical dry cleaning work. During the pandemic, the business pivoted to creating face coverings, right? And providing face coverings for essential workers. And now if you go to Prestige Cleaners website, that is the first thing you will see. And you can purchase your own face coverings. They come in all different kinds, right? Really creative. And the business, Eddie Manis, who owns the business, has said, the business, it suffered and it hurt, right? But creatively, they found a way to continue to tell their story. Hey, Prestige Cleaners, we care about our community, and we act, right? It's also provided people with a lot of visibility. People are online all the time, right? Your brand is more visible now because people are probably scrolling a lot, especially during the early months of the pandemic when most of us were at home, right? Especially if you're using your social media and your storytelling in a really memorable, attention-grabbing way. And connection, right? I'm struggling, right? I'm struggling. Like I imagine many of us are struggling, right? When you show empathy with your audience and say, hey, we're all struggling, right? There's connection that can form there. And there's brands that I follow, right? There's businesses and organizations, there's storytelling platforms. Humans of New York is one of my favorite storytelling platforms. Like I follow that and I just look at it and I'm like, I start tearing up as I'm reading it, right? So I'm like, I feel that. I know what that's like, right? So you build this bridge to your audience, to the people that you're trying to reach, okay? There's a fine line here and I'll talk about that a little later. And then, yeah, Oni's the best, right? April, Becky, thanks for dropping in some information in the chat. I really appreciate that too. I'm like an engage. I'm a Labrador, right? So I want to engage, right? But there's been cons at the same time. During the pandemic, there's social media fatigue, right? A lot of us are exhausted, right? Just like in those early months in March, I was scrolling every day. By April 1st, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to be on my phone anymore, right? I deleted the Instagram app. I deleted the Facebook app, right? It was just too much for me, especially leading into the elections, right? It just wasn't healthy for me, right? So a lot of people have been fatigued, right? And they're just like, you know what? I can't do it anymore, right? There's been a lot of overextension. I'll give some examples of overextension in our takeaways section, right? But this is basically when you're trying to enter foreign territory with your brand and it doesn't make sense. So for Prestige to make face coverings, right? That makes sense. That's a proper extension of a brand, right? If you're a nonprofit and you're serving marginalized youth, to move your programs online to fundraise for digital technology so that those kids still have access to your programming, that makes sense. But let's say you're a baby food company that suddenly starts making meals in a jar for college students and singles, you are overextending. And that is not just like a random example. That's a real example. I will send that to y'all later. But CBS News wrote a story a couple of years ago. Gerber, or actually this is more than a couple of years ago. That's in the chat. They decided we're not just going to make baby food anymore. We are going to make food for college students and singles. And then it's like beets in a jar. It's all this jarred food. Oh, bad overextension of the brand, right? Epic fail. They stopped doing it. Hopefully, most of us don't even know it ever happened, right? And then there's the monotony. Monotony is the flip side of connection, right? The message has been replicated too many times, right? And your story becomes indistinguishable from others in the same market or space, right? So I'll provide an example later with a satirized video on YouTube of basically how every COVID-19 commercial from big businesses has been the same. This is hard. Alex gave a great, we're overextending. We have limited resources. Sometimes it's easy to just be like, well, this person's doing an effective job at this. I'm just going to mimic that. I'm going to replicate that, right? It is very, very, very challenging to be creative and to find a voice in this massive space. But there are people who do and have been really successful at it, right? There's been many, many success stories. And that's who we're leading up to right now, because we're going to talk about the Balloon Garden, Knoxville-based boutique balloon company that launched in May 2020 at the very start of this pandemic and is continuing to thrive. So I'm going to hand it over now to Ashley and Colleen to talk.
Thank you, Brian. Just to introduce ourselves, John did a wonderful job giving our bios, but to put a name with a face, I'm Ashley.
I'm Colleen, and we are the Balloon Garden. We are the creators, the communicators, the designers, the confetti cutters, tassel straighteners, balloon inflators, order takers, and smile makers over here at the Balloon Garden.
And just to dive into that a little bit, so one of our biggest things to share with you guys is that if we can do it, if we can manage social media, then we really think anyone can. You all just missed it, but my dogs were barking like crazy because the FedEx man just got here. That's just us, and that's our life right now.
Working out of home, and we have, no background in marketing, advertising, nothing like that.
Right. We both, I'm a nutrition major. Colleen used to be a first grade teacher. She had a little more background than I did, but just to kind of let y'all know where our story started. During the pandemic and the quarantine, we were obviously at home like everyone else. And as John mentioned, we are neighbors. So we would be sitting on our front porches at night, just, solving the world's problems. And
Solving all the world's
problems. And during one of those nights, actually our business really came about because of social media. My sister-in-law had been having a baby shower that I was supposed to co-host, and I couldn't because of the pandemic. I couldn't be there with her. So I was trying to think of a way to share the love during her Zoom baby shower that she was having. And so I got on the internet, couldn't really find anything, got on social media, and I found this woman who does what we do in Huntsville, Alabama. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect. She has this giant 3-foot balloon. I can send it to my sister-in-law. It's going to be there in the background of her baby shower, and at least I can contribute some way. So I was telling Colleen all about it, and we both are very creative. Colleen has, as mentioned, a t-shirt business as well. And I just like to kind of do creative things as well. And so it just sort of came to us. Yeah. We thought, we can do this.
We're both sitting there on the porch drinking our wine at the end of our quarantine day, and we're like, let's do this. So my daughter's birthday was a couple weeks later, and we decided that we would use her drive-by birthday party as our first little experimental run to see if we can really do this, because it looked easy. We thought, why can't we do this? And nobody is doing these mega balloons here in Knoxville. We did our research, and and again, as like Ashley said, we're both creative, and we're both kind of like, we think we can do it. Anything. So we start tackling it, and we start thinking, this is a lot harder than it looks. It is a lot more labor intensive. There's a reason why, when she had got her balloon in Huntsville, we were kind of talking about the price of it. There's a reason there's that price behind it. It is a labor of love for sure. So we used my daughter's birthday as the run through, and it was a huge success. We got great feedback. And so her birthday was May 29th. We announced we were coming soon, May 31st. And by June 2nd, we had our first order. By June 5th, we helped throw a birthday party. And by June 8th, we contributed to a wedding. So we kind of looked at each other and thought, I think we started a business. Are we really doing this? So as Ashley said, I have a children's clothing business called Little Hoot Designs. So as you can see in these photos, the bottom left, our balloons are intruding on my office space.
AKA her garage.
Yeah,
her basement.
So my basement garage was always turned into my Little Hoot office space, but now we've split it up, have office on one side, the top picture. We're wheeling in the helium tank, which we never thought we could be so excited about, a rusty metal helium tank.
Yes. Colleen, that's one of my favorites. Colleen hanging a balloon garland in her fanny pack that we purchased for our business.
Fanny packs are the best tools to hang balloon garland.
Yeah, so this is just us having fun with it. But as we mentioned earlier, and I think this was in our bio as well, literally within the first 2 months, over 5,000 balloons, 7 brides, 6 new babies, no more chemo, and an adoption day. And how did we do this? Y'all, we don't have a website yet. We're going to, but we've been so busy, we haven't had time to yet. We strictly use social media. Fortunately, Colleen with her business had more experience in social media than I did. So she can dive into that a little bit, how we use social media to help out our business.
Yeah, so we only use social media, and I remember this was during a quarantine. Ashley at the time was working a full-time job with 2 toddler age children. I had a stay-at-home business that was slowing down but hadn't shut down, and I have 3 children of my own. So we were quarantined at home with our 5 kids. We had this, idea to do this, and we, with my little hoop background in social media, I use kind of the tips and tricks I'd kind of already kind of run through the trial and error period, but everybody has a startup trial and error period where you just need to kind of just pull off the Band-Aid and go for it. It is such a vulnerable thing to put yourself out there on social media. And if you don't have a partner like I do with Ashley, and Ashley has a background in sales, and she's really, really good at it. She can go out and talk about our business really well. I prefer to hide behind the screen and post the pretty pictures and things like that. But the combination of the two of us has worked out really well. But even if you don't have that person, find somebody, who you can count on to kind of help you do that, or find somebody, that you just trust their taste and opinion, and you let them help you. But Instagram has really been our sole platform. We have it linked to Facebook, which I encourage everybody to do. It saves you that double step of going from Instagram to Facebook. So we just kind of stick to Instagram. We have everything linked between the two. But we get most of our feedback. Our audience primarily uses Instagram. So that's kind of where we use our market. But we don't use any paid marketing. As Ashley said, we don't have a website yet. That's in the works. We don't have any employees. We have some cute 13 and 11-year-old neighbors who love to come over and help cut confetti, and who doesn't love blowing up balloons. But we don't use professional photos. This one in this photo, in this picture of Sloane's very first birthday is from our customer. She sent us that picture, and it's beautiful. And so we use a lot of our content is from our customers, and we just always make sure to ask their permission before we post anything. But the bottom line is we don't have any fancy equipment. We're working out of a basement. Our assistants are 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And I mean, we are definitely parenting full-time and building a business full-time. So again, you can do this. And I think that the hard part is just that vulnerability point. Once you figure out, I have a lot of people who say, well, how do you post a story? It's so intimidating. And it is. I think, there's no real full explanation as to how you really do that. So once you do it, give yourself a goal to do it 2 or 3 times. And after you do that, it just becomes so easy, and you don't think so much. Just don't overthink, and just kind of put products out there that are appealing to your audience.
Yeah. And one of the things that I remember prior to starting this business, Colleen was always working on her Instagram stories, taking photos of everything. And those are 2 tips that actually just came to me, is to document everything. I used to think she was crazy. I was like, why are you taking pictures of this right now? But honestly, the more you can share with your audience, the more you have to engage with them, just the better off you're going to be.
And sorry, just touch on that.
Yeah.
People love to see, the behind the scenes. They want to know who's behind the business that they love. I mean, obviously this photo here is attractive and appealing and beautiful, but there comes a point where you want to know who's behind that, and they want to get to know you, or the fact that, we're moms with kids. So it makes it relative to your audience.
Yeah.
Switch. Sorry. Okay.
Oh, so you don't have to just take our word for it. We've obviously laid it all out here. So thank you to social media, truly, like we've said, social media only. One of our, basically what got us started, our main product is our mega balloon that we customize. And I know you're not here to learn about a mega balloon, so I won't go into too much detail on that, but that is just basically our main product. Since we started tracking, basically June, so 4-ish months, we've designed over 400 customized mega balloons, blown up 15,000 balloons for what you see here, for this garland, just for people coming by, picking up a dozen for a party. At least 277 new customers. I kind of lost count, got tired of counting, to be honest. But this just really shows that, you know, with hard work, which obviously you can see our pictures, we're toting around our helium tank, and the social media success that we've had, you know, really anybody can use social media to their advantage. Okay, and another beautiful thing about social media, I think this is one of the coolest things that I have seen. So we are, of course, a local business. Like I mentioned, we got our inspiration from someone who is in Huntsville, Alabama. She was local. We've reached out to her. It's not a competitive business that we're in because you really are kind of limited to where you are. So it's a lot of word of mouth and, again, social media extending our reach. But some of the neat things that we have seen, you know, we're not marketing in Knoxville. We're definitely not marketing outside of Knoxville, but we've had customers driving an hour plus. If you're from Tennessee, we've had people drive from Harriman, Sevierville, Friendsville. All these places are an hour plus from where we live. They have seen us, truly, it's all through social media, and just us driving that customer engagement. We always tell our customers, you know, when you take a picture on Instagram, make sure you tag us. We actually have a little receipt that we give them that has our Instagram handle, and, you know, so we can remind them to tag us. So truly, I mean, we have just used social media, and it's crazy. It's been crazy to me that the reach that we've seen. We have people all the time. I had someone from Chicago the other day. She started emailing me and she said, you know, someone's having a baby and I want to send this balloon. And just in my head, I was assuming, oh, okay, well, I guess her relative lives in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so I'm engaging with her and emailing back and forth. And then she's like, okay, so you're going to ship that to Chicago, right? So she has been following our page from Chicago and thought that we could send it. And obviously that was a little miscommunication there. So I was like, sorry, we can't ship a customized balloon, but we can ship you a big balloon if you want to blow it up yourself. But just really neat things like that go to show that social media, I mean, just the reach that it has.
Yeah, and as a result of that customer, it had we started thinking and our heads started turning about what are ways we can reach outside of Knoxville.
Right.
So we have a few ideas coming soon. So you need to keep following us because 2021 is going to be full of more fun ideas and ways to expand to other cities, and how we can grow.
Next slide.
All right, as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it truly registered so perfectly with a lot of our photos and just all the celebrations that have been, you know, correlated during this time, especially during a pandemic. Who doesn't love, just like, who wouldn't love coming home to this image? It's so pretty. And every picture we post has a story. And every picture you post has a story. So you want to make sure that not only are you just posting a photo, you need to make sure that your caption is important. You want your product to be clear. It is very evident that we're selling balloons here. We're not selling the little bitty flowers on the front porch. We're selling that massive pink balloon. So the product is clear, what we're selling, the image is appealing. You want to make sure that when you're posting a picture, that it's something that would make you want to stop in your tracks and want to read more about it. Think about, there are thousands and thousands of pictures going through when you're scrolling Facebook or Instagram, and you want yours to stand out from the rest. So think about something that will be eye-catching to your audience, and that also goes with knowing your audience and, you know, knowing what will be appealing to them. So, and then make sure it draws in your attention. So this caption says, "This install was such a joy. We love helping people celebrate milestones in life, and a final chemo treatment celebration is one that deserves all the praise hands." And we got 33 comments on that. Obviously just spreading love and joy, because who doesn't want to celebrate a final chemo treatment? But you just need to make sure that you have those final things. So when you're posting, like, think about, you know, make it an intentional post. Don't just throw something out there and expect that you're going to get a return just because you posted something. It's kind of like with anything else, like any relationship you have, you're going to give out as much as what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So just doing that. Also engaging in your audience. It's super important not to just post. Like, and if people comment, we like to go back. It's kind of like in any relationship. Like if Ashley says something to me and she's like, that's beautiful, then I'm going to say, thank you. So don't just put like a heart and like it back, like a like take the time to write thank you back to that person, because that also helps. I mean, you want to say it anyway, but it helps build your engagement on social media. And you know, it kind of all goes together.
Absolutely. So we'll run you through just a few more photos that we've got, just kind of touching on these, how we told stories, and how we kind of drew the audience in on these. I did see in the chat, somebody said if there's a best time to post. I don't know. Oh, well, we can come back to that at the Q&A if you don't want to answer it now, but I was just going to let y'all know, we'll come back to that.
So, so with this Welcome Home Amelia, clearly we're selling the balloon, but it tells such a beautiful story. It's a mother coming home from the hospital with her baby during a pandemic. Okay, but if you read the caption, I had it, but I can't see it right now. Is she's coming home from the NICU. So it changes from, oh, this is a beautiful celebration, to you're thinking we're in a pandemic and your child was in the NICU. It is so emotional. It's like cue the tears.
Yes.
But it's beautiful because there she is standing with her, and it, you know, draws in your crowd. It's emotional, and so you want to have posts that just are relative, that say, you know, that make people have all the feels, and it's amazing that a simple balloon can do that.
Yes.
So our next slide is a gender reveal. So if you can put in your chats what your guess is on if this is going to be a girl or a boy. I'll give you a second to do that.
Just to make sure everybody's still paying attention.
I think I saw someone say twins. That was good.
Oh, that is a good guess. Oh, that would have been a fun twist.
Fun twist.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So, okay. So this is going to be a storytelling sequence. I'm going to show you that sometimes you don't just need to have one photo. Sometimes you need to have multiple to tell the story. And obviously this first one tells the story, but so while I'm talking about storytelling, I want to make it clear that when I'm talking about your Insta story, my mom's watching, so I just want to make sure she understands. Your Insta story is the little circle, and it's confusing if you're not, you know, if this isn't everyday world for you. It's a little circle on the top of your Instagram bar, and it going across the screen, and you see it kind of blinking around someone's face, but it's their profile picture. And so you can go up there and it tells a story, and it's pretty great way for this. So it showed the first one was, is it girl or boy? We have Hannah from The Bachelor thinking really hard to make it funny. And then the next picture says, over the moon, excited about this gender reveal. And there's the pretty family. The girl in the photo is actually a local news anchor. The photographer is a talented local photographer. The boys are wearing t-shirts by my kids' t-shirt business. And then the balloons are the balloon garden. So we hit up 4 different avenues of businesses and marketing to do this gender reveal. So, so then obviously the beautiful picture of the family, the brother jumping in the air to pop it. It's a girl. The mom's real excited. The dad looks really scared. So it tells an awesome story. So sometimes you just need to be, you know, make sense of it. And if you do a sequencing of story on a Monday, then Tuesday, make it just a single post. So like when we do our posts, we might have a garland one day. The next day is going to be a mega balloon. The next day might be a time lapse. Change it up, because people don't, you know, they get bored. So you want to change it up and keep it fresh and exciting. Okay, so this is our children's precious little school called Sequoia, and we decided to give back to our community. This was not the kids' first day of school, but we thought the teachers needed some morale going back to school. So we surprised them. We went out the night before. It was like gosh, it was really late. And we put this garland up to surprise the teachers when they came to school the next morning. And it was they were in tears over it, really excited. So that was special. But you know, you don't always have to financially, you know, monetarily give back to your community. Like, your act of helping and showing your love is just as important, if not more. So we do offer 25% off to nonprofits and schools. We love working with local businesses, again, like the relationship building. We want them to succeed as much as we want our own business to succeed. We want our, you know, entire community to have thriving businesses. So when you're on social media, don't just post your picture and call it a day. You need to actually spend time, you know, liking their posts. If they have something they're sharing that's relative to your audience and it's not a competition to your business, share it. Like, feel free to share other people's successes and, you know, just, I read Beth's comment.
I'm loving the chat feature.
And, you know, just love on everyone around you. It's, you know, your business grows because of the relationships you build, and you want to give back. So Ashley's going to touch a little bit more on how you can cross market with local businesses.
Yes. So one thing that we really think a lot about is partnering and collaborating with businesses in the community through social media. Partnering, you know, that's more of when we were actually having a meeting, somebody said this, and I love this quote: you're using your products to sell their products. Or if you don't have a product you're selling, your service, you know, there's some way that you can always connect with somebody in the community, and y'all can kind of have a relationship that benefits each other. So these are, you know, people who purchase balloons from us to promote their businesses. We put a corporate logo on them. A lot of times they will have a photo shoot. They'll put it on their social media site just to kind of generate excitement. Again, it makes a pretty picture, so it draws people into their site. Of course, they tag us. We put it on our site. It just really, everything, when you choose a partner, everything goes together. You can choose partners who have a similar demographic. Probably not going to be surprising to hear this, but our demographic is primarily women who are kind of like 20 to 50-ish probably. And so we'll find partners that are in that demographic. If we are wanting to extend our reach, you know, we may go to someone who's a little bit outside of that demographic. Say someone, a gentleman wants to send his wife a balloon for her birthday, you know, maybe we'll partner with like a local barbershop or somebody who reaches another demographic if it's an area that we feel we're lacking in. So in addition to partnering in the community, social media, collaborating. This is a big one on social media, which this was all new to me. Like I said, I came from sales, didn't do a whole lot of social media other than just having my little Instagram account of my kids. But this has been a really fun one. I love collaborating in the social media community. The one thing about collaboration, a lot of times you're working for free. This pretty garland we made here, we did that completely for free. However, when you're collaborating, it's a large group of people in the social media community. And every single person, I would say we probably had about 8 vendors for that styled shoot. And every single person, anytime they share their content, they're also tagging you. So you really do kind of have to evaluate to see if it's worth it. And this one, it definitely was. It created some gorgeous content for our social media, which, you know, we primarily are using pictures that we take ourselves, pictures that customers send in to us that they've taken on their iPhones. We use our iPhones. But it is also nice to, you know, sprinkle in some really pretty pictures every once in a while. So that is a big thing with collaborating, that you're getting to work with like businesses in the community. So you can collaborate on, you know, venues. You can really collaborate with anybody. You can also collaborate with specific people. This girl featured here, her name's Peyton Baxter. She lives in Oak Ridge nearby, and she is a very influential,
influential
She's
influencer.
an influential influencer.
She was a former UT cheerleader.
Yes. She has a crazy following on Instagram.
It's crazy.
If
We've
you're,
had, yeah,
if
we've
you're
had-
like us and over the age of 30, like you may not be familiar with her, but anyone who is younger knows who she is. I mean, I think she has about 500,000 followers.
we've learned a lot about her. And,
Yes.
and she, she brought us
so many. So this balloon was in her stories. And she had a whole bunch of stories. I think we were maybe like 6th or 7th down the line.
Yeah.
So, if you've ever been on Instagram, you'll start scrolling through and eventually you'll get bored and keep going. Well, even with us being like 7th down the line, and obviously we provided this balloon for free, it was a collaboration that we thought about and evaluated, would it be worth it for us and our time. I think it still brought in like 200 or 300 new followers.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were not even featured.
We
on
were
her
not the
Instagram.
main focus at all.
So our biggest takeaway there, evaluate each opportunity, be selective. And if you can work with influencers in your community, people that have a large following, go for it all the way. Because there's definitely there will be a return on your time investment, even if you're doing something for free. And like we mentioned earlier, the people who come from like really far away, one of our customers who's been a repeat customer, she comes from an hour away. She's bought balloons from us more than once. She found us from this post.
Yeah.
So just kind of a neat how it comes full circle like that.
Yeah. And just be smart about it. I mean, we've only agreed to doing, like 3 a year, really. I mean, don't overextend yourself with freebies because you don't need to be working for free, but every now and again, obviously it pays off. So, yeah. So if you'll stick with us to the end, we do have a little giveaway, a little balloon giveaway. And Courtney's going to tell you a little bit more about measuring and timing of things and how to use, your free insights that are actually on social media and Facebook to see your return. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So thank you, Ashley and Colleen. It's going to be hard to follow up fun, beautiful balloons and all the success that they've seen from their small business. But I'm Courtney Childers, and as John mentioned earlier, I am very lucky to teach here at the University of Tennessee in the School of Advertising and Public Relations. And in addition to that, I also help run the Adam Brown Social Media Command Center. So I'm going to focus a few minutes on kind of what's next. You have a successful social media campaign, or maybe you have a not so successful social media campaign. Regardless, it's always important that you monitor and measure to see how you can improve things for the future. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just a few tips on kind of what does come next. So the first thing I'll harp on is taking full advantage of the free platform analytics that are provided by Facebook, by Instagram, by Twitter. All these are associated with your name and your handle. And it's amazing how much information and what a resource these free platform analytics truly are. Ashley and Colleen and I were texting back and forth yesterday, and just the information that Instagram alone can provide you with showing impressions and engagement for your post, and all that is available free of charge. So take advantage of that. Check into those numbers, see what's performing well, what kind of common threads there are. Is it all about the visual? Do you think it's because you added some humor? Is there a particular topic? Like Ashley and Colleen mentioned earlier, the No More Chemo was a very popular post. So thinking about ways to take advantage of that in the future and what your future social media strategy should look like. In social, the likes, the comments, and the shares truly do rule, and that's kind of like the trifecta of engagement. So as you're looking at these analytics and trying to plan for the future, take a look at those numbers behind your likes, comments, and shares. For me personally, I think shares are extremely valuable because that's just going to extend your reach well beyond what your original post contained. So that is, kind of the top of my priority list personally. We had a question in the chat earlier about scheduling patterns and tools to help. Take a look at your content, see what's performing well. When is it performing well? Do pictures trump videos on certain days and at certain times? With a very quick Google search, you can find out what different research that's been conducted on when is best to post on Twitter and when is best to post to Pinterest and when is best to post to Facebook. And then there are really cost-efficient scheduling tools that can help you, where you don't always have to just sit at a computer or be behind your phone and posting content. You can actually schedule things in advance. The final 3 bullet points in this first slide for me is all about your audience. And as someone that teaches in advertising and public relations, where we talk all the time about targets and publics, I can't encourage you enough to really do focus a ton of time and attention on knowing your audience, engaging with your audience as much as possible on social, and then also listening to your audience. So I think that Colleen and Ashley gave you a wonderful tip earlier when they talked about, just instead of just liking or hearting, a particular post or comment on Instagram, why not instead reply back directly? And if you notice in a lot of the examples they provided you throughout the webinar today, you will see that they have spent a tremendous amount of time, honestly, doing just that. And that really does help grow your community, help your community know that if they comment on something that they're actually heard or seen, and it makes them a little bit more visible to you as, the human behind the brand, and in this case, Balloon Garden Knoxville. The listening part of your audience is extremely important to me and something I'm passionate about. Through the Adam Brown Social Media Command Center, we have a very sophisticated tool called Salesforce Social Studio, which I'm going to walk you through in just a second, that allows you to really listen and gain insights from your audience. You don't need a very expensive tool like Salesforce Social Studio to do that. Just watch your comments, check out the shares, listen to your audience. What are their needs? What are they looking for? What content do they really engage with? Because that's what's going to help you, your nonprofit, and your small business in moving forward. So, but a little bit more about the listening part. I told you that in all my spare time from teaching and research and conducting service at UT, I do have the pleasure to work with a lot of students and faculty and staff members in getting involved in the Adam Brown Social Media Command Center, which this is a picture from our center. We run off of Salesforce Social Studio technology. A lot of you on this call have probably used a Salesforce product before, whether you actually pay to use it or whether you have gotten an email that has promoted a certain product or service that you've looked at and searched for already online. I bet you've been impacted by Salesforce without even knowing it at times. The Adam Brown Social Media Command Center at UT is named after a fantastic alum by the name of Adam Brown. He graduated from our advertising school in 1984 and basically came back to campus and said he wanted to put his heart and soul into something to help educate our students and prepare our students for internships and jobs after graduation. So our URL is here if you want to take a look. And if you have any other questions after today's presentation, feel free to shoot me an email. We are one of a very, very few social media command centers in the world, not just in the United States, but globally, that allows our faculty, staff, and students to have a physical space to meet and congregate. COVID has put a slight kind of negative on that face-to-face component of our center, but thank goodness our social listening technology called Social Studio is actually cloud-based. So one of the few places across the globe that students can come and physically sit in a command center and run this technology, which is such a gift to us in really getting our students prepared for the real world. So what exactly is social listening? This is an image I like to show a lot to just kind of emphasize that actually social listening encompasses so much more than just social media sites. So Brian talked earlier about that trifecta, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, right? So actually social listening encompasses forums and blogs and review sites, all those social networks that we've talked about, but podcasts and trade sites, comments on eBay, comments on the Knox News Sentinel when it posts a story online and you see all those public comments that are underneath that story. Social listening is a much larger beast than just tracking and seeing what people say on Instagram or Facebook, okay? So what social listening allows us to do in a tool like Social Studio is we can collect all of that commentary, and Social Studio processes it and then also helps us with the analysis. And what does that mean? So as a nonprofit or as a small business, if I use some type of social listening tool, typically I get to go beyond just collecting all these comments and all these opinions and all these mentions to actually knowing what to do with all of that content, right? Because I don't know about you, but especially in times of a pandemic where I find myself online even more than I normally am for my job, I am really, really just taking in a ton of online commentary. And all of this is actually being categorized and cataloged by tools like Salesforce to use in this analysis piece. I am an academic. I am a teacher. I would be remiss if I did not give you an actual textbook definition. So what is social listening? According to Sprout Social, it's the process of tracking conversations around specific phrases, words, or brands, and then leveraging them to discover opportunities or create content for those audiences. So again, taking it beyond just the collection of data, but taking it to an insightful level that impacts what we do for our future strategy. So why does it matter? A few things with social listening that we can troubleshoot in advance. We can modify our strategy in real time if there's something that's going on, a crisis is on the brink, a PR disaster is upon us. Maybe we're an airline and we have way too many canceled flights. Maybe in uncovering pain points, I realized that, oh my gosh, I really can't ship a mega balloon as much as I thought I could if I'm the balloon garden. It's always important to listen to how people talk about you versus your competition. And I use competition loosely because that word can mean different things to different businesses, different industries. The balloon garden right now is currently our only option here in Knoxville, and they've really capitalized on that, and they're gaining tons of momentum in the selling of these balloon arches and mega balloons, and bringing a celebration in times of a pandemic. But if competition comes to town, they want to make sure that they're totally in tune with what's going on and what people are saying about their competition too. It's a good way to develop sales leads. And then social listening is also incredibly important for this last bullet point. And I'm so glad that Ashley and Colleen shared with you the story behind Peyton Baxter as an influencer here in East Tennessee, because Peyton has a tremendous following, and social listening can help you identify those influencers. And I would also say those brand advocates, those people that just love what you're doing and support you. And you don't have to send them a free balloon, but it's wonderful when you get this free word of mouth, right? As someone that maybe loved the balloon that he or she received and can advocate for having a mega balloon at a future party or celebration. So speaking of parties, I am a mom of 2 young boys. Both of my boys had birthdays towards the end of the summer this year. And as a lot of parents, grandparents, guardians, etc., faced, what do we do to celebrate a birthday, especially when kids' birthday parties are such a big deal? So how do we celebrate a kid's birthday in a pandemic? Is it okay to do so? Is it safe to have a party inside? Oh no, do we need to only invite a certain number of people, right? So I was faced with this challenge, as a lot of people have been, right? And I think that that's such a wonderful testament to what Ashley and Colleen have done with Balloon Garden, because we can go pick up a mega balloon and bring the celebration home and not worry maybe as much about just our kid's birthday getting ignored, right? So I ran a quick topic profile just yesterday morning to have as recent of information as possible about what does the conversation look like around birthday parties and COVID, Corona, pandemic, etc. Okay, so here are a few pieces of social media content that popped up pretty quickly. So Kelly here talks about having a birthday party with a 1-year-old who's been infected. All 6 people now have COVID. Here's another tweet. What's a good COVID-friendly birthday party idea for kids? So kind of crowdsourcing the idea, right? Here is something that was placed on a blog about planning a first birthday party during COVID. What are we going to do? 32 people. We're obviously not going to do that. Here is a tweet about a birthday party that took place in Long Island where kind of COVID exploded post-party, and that party has been, identified as maybe a super spreader or spreader type event, which we don't want to happen at a birthday party, right? So her sister's having a big birthday party here, and it's like, it's not my fault. Y'all don't take this pandemic seriously, et cetera, right? I've given up milestone celebration like my kid's birthday party. first birthday party. No, not here for judgment. So as you can see, as these keep trickling in, people have very different opinions about what we're supposed to do right now in celebrating birthdays and maybe specifically kids' birthday parties during a pandemic, right? The election is over, but the pandemic isn't. This is a virus that doesn't care why it is that we're gathering. Some of you are probably thinking to yourself right now, yeah, our families are having the exact same conversation about Thanksgiving and Christmas and what that's going to look like as well, right? So lots of social chatter about what we're going to do with birthday parties during a pandemic. So here is a screenshot of the dashboard from yesterday, looking at birthdays and COVID. And this is from Salesforce Social Studio, as I talked about before. It's so exciting to be able to go into a classroom with students, whether you physically can go see them face to face, which is always our preference, or whether you're virtually learning right now, as some of us are in our classes via Zoom technology at UT. It's so cool to be able to search for any topic, any issue, any individual, to be honest, and provide a dashboard like this in real time looking at that content. So our social commentaries over here on the topic. In the last 30 days, as you can see at the top, there's been roughly 3,300 total posts. Those are only public posts. So if you are a private Instagram user or private Facebook user, or even private on Twitter, Salesforce is not collecting that private content, okay? Here's some influencers that are named. These are media accounts. If I were to keep scrolling, you would find individuals, and that could be very influential in your strategy and who you connect with and who you get to become an advocate for your brand or organization, right? Over here, we have some top words. We see pandemic, party, and birthday. We see party, school, home. Halloween's in there. What do people do for Halloween? And then, as with so many topics that we search within Social Studio, we have some Kardashian-Jenner conversation that is topical. I will tell you that I went back and did some extra research just in case you're interested. And both Kim Kardashian and Kendall Jenner had birthday parties during this time frame that garnered a lot of negative social media conversations. That's why these names are showing up here. And these spikes in media type, so these are tweets here. These two are both tied to Kendall and Kim's birthday parties. And this one is actually tied to Tiffany Trump's birthday. She had a birthday party in Miami, and there was a lot of backlash about that too during a pandemic. So I would really want to see what causes these peaks in my conversation, and also be aware of what people are saying about others that are celebrating birthdays, if this is my particular topic profile. Talked about that. The sentiment overall with the conversation is skewing slightly negative. The gray box is neutral and the positive is here in green. So overall, the conversation is a little bit not so positive in terms of people having birthday parties or having conversations about what to do about birthday parties during a pandemic. And the sentiment trend, these also correlate with the dates I gave you before. So Tiffany Trump's birthday, and then Kim and Kendall's. So like I say, celebrities often drive a lot of conversation. From an advertising or PR standpoint, the top words that are given to us during a topic profile or a dashboard are extremely important. I can give you another example of a class project that we did with a local dermatologist here in Knoxville that was having trouble connecting with a younger audience in terms of sunscreen use and sun protection. And what we found out by just doing a really quick topic profile on sunscreen and sun protection is that all the language that she was using was really skewing more towards a 30+ audience. And she was seeing, as a local dermatologist, more youth and young adults coming in with, the starting of some type of skin lesion or skin cancer that was very problematic. So she actually changed her wording and terminology that she was using in her promotional pieces based solely on the conversation that we saw on Social Studio, which was really cool to see a direct impact. So Salesforce Social Studio is an extremely expensive tool. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Pepsi uses it, Southwest Airlines uses it, both the Trump and the Biden campaigns used it, and this is a tool that they probably spent 6 figures on per year. I know that completely takes it out of the context of a lot of the businesses and nonprofits that we're running on this webinar series, but I did want to tell you, and I'll shoot these into the chat too, that these are a few, what I would say, cost-efficient social media monitoring tools. Some of them also have a scheduling capability. Some of these are as cheap as $9.99, $10 a month, and some of them even actually have 30-day free trials. So I've heard of some local nonprofits kind of popping around to different monitoring and planning tools from month to month, just to take advantage of the freeness and to also see which one really fits their needs the best. For some of these that are a little bit more expensive, you might want to reach out if you're a nonprofit, and some of these have like a nonprofit type arm to them that may also provide grants and services that could be of use for you all. I'm going to conclude by talking about the fact that the Adam Brown Social Media Command Center is a fantastic resource that provides our students with real experiential learning opportunities, and also provides an outreach and a community service type element where we take on real clients and help these clients with their either advertising or public relations strategy, or even sometimes their social media strategy through our social media class. So on your screen in front of you, you see just a few of the clients that we've worked with over the past 2 to 3 years. We are very lucky that one of our alums of our college is actually the CEO of Build-A-Bear Workshop. So Build-A-Bear was the client for a public relations research class a few semesters back. And we were able to take a look at the PR disaster that Build-A-Bear had when they were offering free bears for birthdays. Y'all remember that? It was a really big fail on their part because people were waiting in line for like 4 or 5 hours. They ran out of bears. They tried to make everything better by giving a birthday month to each individual participant. And I think it smoothed things over, but not as quickly as Build-A-Bear had hoped. We took that PR crisis using Social Studio and other social listening tools, and we were able to craft them a strategy moving forward on how to kind of rebuild that consumer trust. We worked with the Braves before, Dollywood. The Graduate Knoxville Hotel was our client, one of our classes in the spring, which is a great opportunity to kind of help launch a hotel that was coming to town, although again, COVID really sidelined a lot of that. And then you'll see over here on the right side too, that we're not always working for for-profit clients. We have a lot of nonprofit capabilities, especially in our public relations classes. So we work with Metro Drug Coalition, Girl Talk, and the Sertoma Center is actually a client for spring 2021. If you have any questions, I know that I've talked with Ashley and Colleen about maybe looking for a social media intern in the future, and we're going to try to do everything we can to, partner her with a really fantastic student that understands the Bloom Garden and can bring some, new fresh ideas to the business. But if you ever want to partner with us for a class project, the email address is here on the screen. That's our school ad and PR email address. The school director is actually on this webinar, so Beth Foster will help facilitate a little bit of that and direct down to us as professors, like who's going to take on what client. And then in addition to that, if you have the need for interns, you're welcome to email us individually, but I'll also say that our Career Center at UT is really fantastic and is doing a lot to provide our students with resources that really go beyond what we have at the school level. So I've also put the website here. There's a handshake system, and you literally fill out an online application for an intern or an employee, and that gets posted to Handshake, where all UT students have access to that. So shout out to the Career Center for all that they're doing in that regard. My final slide. So we've all been asked to wrap up today by talking about our key tips and takeaways. My two that I will share before I turn it over to Brian and Ashley and Colleen for their two. My two tips and takeaways, again, it's all about the audience. You got to know your audience to grow your audience. And one of my favorite ways and the best ways I think to approach that is to use some social listening and just really dive in. If you're trying to target 30 to 50-year-old women and you're actually connecting and engaging with women that are much younger or much older, you need to think about the content that you're putting out there and think about your community and how you can't really grow your audience without knowing your audience. And then finally, something pretty easy. I would start small, especially if I'm a small business. Think about dedicating about 30 minutes a day to making sure that you have goals that you want to accomplish, make sure your profile is completely complete, that you provide a link to a website, for example, if you have one of those, but just 30 minutes. Everybody can give 30 minutes a day. And the cool thing about it is today is that we don't even have to have a laptop. This little device right here, right? 30 minutes on this can really transform a lot of what you're hoping to accomplish. So again, I say start small and go from there. We can only grow, right? Brian, I think it's your turn now.
It's me again. Yay.
Yay.
I missed you guys. I wanted to talk to you again. Man, can we just like give like a little golf clap for like Ashley, Colleen, and Courtney? Because they were awesome. My 2 tips are to identify and connect. And I'm a trained journalist. This is what got me into the field that I now work in and how I became a storyteller. So I ask a lot of questions. Okay. So my question is for identify. What makes your organization special, right? So what makes your organization unique, right? What makes your organization different from other organizations? Next slide, please. Right there, when for the University of Tennessee, right? What's the first thing that comes to mind for most people? Smokey the dog, right? Peyton Manning and Ayers Hall. If you're like an academic, you walked up the hill, you're just like, right? You've been here, right? These are like iconic images that are associated with the University of Tennessee. We put them out there. We're going to get like hundreds and thousands of likes. You know, it's obvious, but that's not our entire story as the University of Tennessee, right? So if you cook again, Courtney, right there, right? We're the vols. We're the volunteers, right? That means something. I mentioned people first storytelling in the chat, right? I love people first storytelling because it makes it real for your audience. Like, that's how you drive that empathetic connection, right? So we're Vols. Like, we want to be known for being Vols. People will always associate us with Peyton and Smokey, right? Ayers. There will be storytelling opportunities there, but the most important message we're sending to the world is we act, we carry the torch, we serve, we lead in our community. And this is an image from a story about the Big Orange Pantry, which is a pantry that we recently opened to support our students who are dealing with hunger issues and food insecurities. Right. Now, there's going to be a real temptation to be generic here. In fact, there's a video compilation on YouTube of several commercials and ads from Publix, Facebook, Uber, Nationwide, Mazda, Target, with the title, "Every COVID-19 commercial is the same." And I'll pop that in the chat so you all can look at it later. And that's a fair criticism, right? So you want to distinguish yourself. Also, you want to connect, right? So ask yourself, does your messaging reflect your service or your product? Does it make sense for your audience? So the image that I'm going to show you here is one that I hope you will recognize. So if you saw the Super Bowl this past year, you may have seen this commercial, right? Really memorable. Like, this is the first thing I thought of when I thought of like a message, right? Like a message related to the Super Bowl. However, I could not remember what brand this was for. Like, I kept thinking it was for Quibi, that like storytelling platform, you know, the short 10-minute videos that like, you know, recently like failed. Like, no, it wasn't. It was for Rocket Mortgage, but I didn't know that, right? There's this thing that marketing people call triggers, right? You want people, when they see your story, when they see your messaging, for it to trigger something. It's like, oh yeah, that's AAA, or that's Century Fund, or that's Big Brothers Big Sisters, right? Or that's Casa, right? Oh, okay, that makes sense for them. So you want to make sure your messaging is tied to your product. One great example from the Super Bowl was the Loretta commercial of the older man who's using Google Assistant to remember his wife, who's, you know, obviously passed away. I'm like talking about it, I'm like about to start tearing up, like right now. Super emotional, right? But that triggered something. Oh yeah, I can use Google Assistant to like save these memories. It told me, like, I'm like, I got like a 9-month-old baby. I should probably do this right now so I don't forget things about her, right? So you want to make sure it's tied to your product. And again, you don't want to overextend your brand, right? A great example, Colgate toothbrushes, right? Colgate is, you know, toothpaste, right? They started making toothbrushes, natural extension of the brand. Something that you all may not know about, several years ago, when I say Harley Davidson, you probably think of motorcycles, right? Harley Davidson started a perfume several years ago. Of course, it like went under. Now you can buy it like online if you want to be like, oh, I got the Harley Davidson perfume, right? But huge overextension of the brand, right? Didn't take off because people could not associate those two things together. So how I try to remember this is I try to remember, be Michael Jordan, not Michael Jordan, the baseball player, right? That was an overextension of his brand, right? Don't be Michael Jordan, the baseball player, be Michael Jordan, the basketball player. All right, And that's all for me. I'll pass it on to the next ones.
I like that, Brian. Be Michael Jordan, the basketball player, not the baseball player. It's true. It's so true. So our takeaways, we'll just reiterate kind of what we said at the end, is just, you know, to stay present, engage with your audience, bring them back to your page, as somebody also commented, and I appreciate that. I forgot to mention that when you do comment on something, it does pull it back up to the top of people's feed. So you want to comment on posts, repost, comment, respond. The more engagement you have, the better payback you will receive in the end. So
absolutely. And I know Colleen and I have talked about this a lot, but you don't have to live in Instagram or Facebook or social media. Like Courtney said, 30 minutes a day is all it takes.
I'm glad you said that too. Sorry, just one more thing. I say to Ashley all the time, I'm like, don't be a slave to Instagram.
Yes.
Like, I turn off all notifications. I don't want it to control me. I want to pick and choose when I go to it. And so I can sit and be intentional and focus on what I'm doing and then do something else. Because if your notifications are on, you are constantly just getting triggered all day long. So don't be a slave to social media.
For sure. And then our second big tip there is to find people and businesses with similar markets, or even markets that you're trying to tap into that may not be as similar, to collaborate and partner with. And that kind of leads us to our next slide, because we did have a giveaway. And so you have to agree to partner with us and repost it if you win, if you're on social media. So it looks like we have gone through our chats. And for our giveaway, and if you can let us know when we say your name to make sure that you're still on here, because if you're not, then we'll choose someone else. But Jane Gully is the winner of our balloon giveaway. And Jane, if you're still on here, you can just send a chat or unmute yourself. If not, we'll move on.
Jane.
Okay.
Going once.
Going twice. Becky Thompson. Oh, that's okay. We'll give two giveaways. Jane Thompson and Becky Thompson. Yeah, Rob, if you'll let Jane know, and then Becky Thompson as well, if she's still on here. Okay. Well,
all right. We'll go with Jane.
We'll go with Jane. Rob is going to let her know. Thank you, Rob.
She can contact us at balloongardenox@gmail.com, which is in the chat. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. That was really good. Now let's get into some Q&A time. I know we had one come up earlier about the best time to post. If you all want to take a stab and answer that, it'd be great.
Courtney's probably the best to answer this, but I will just say personally, from what we have come to find out, I mean, I definitely think it depends on your audience. It can vary dramatically based on who your audience is. For us, since our target market really is a lot, 20 to 60-year-olds, it is early morning, and I'd say about like 8 at night. We have tried to do like the noon posts, and it's still successful, but I think people are busy. They're not sitting on the couch or not laying around, wanting to comment and engage. I think they're on the go probably a little bit more in the middle of the day. They say that is definitely a prime. Courtney will probably say opposite and say that is like a prime post time. But from what we have seen, and that's in Balloon Garden and with my t-shirt business with Little Hoot, it's early mornings, like I'm saying 5 a.m. if I can get it out there before people get up and start their day, or as after they put their kids to bed and are just kind of unwinding. Those are our highlighted times.
Yeah, so I just put in the chat that there is a fantastic study that Sprout Social put out called The Best Times to on Social Media in 2020. Oh, it should be The Best Times to Post on Social Media. Sorry, I was doing that quickly. In 2020. I think it'll have all the information that you need right there. And honestly, I was looking over on my laptop because I keep it bookmarked at the top to talk about it. It's a question I get often and also discuss a lot with students in class whenever I see their proposals or plans for, thanks, Brian, for their client work that we do in our schools. So for Facebook, based on research, best times are Wednesday. The best day is Wednesday, the worst day is Sunday, and the best times are on Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 1 to 2 p.m. And then there is literally a graph and a chart for each social media platform. So I feel like if you know which platform or platforms work the best for your particular brand, checking out this study will be very, very impactful for you. But I agree with everything Ashley and Colleen said. I think it's very specific to your business at times and the audience within your business. The resource I'm sharing with you is quite generic across the board. So use your own insights per platform to help inform that decision as well.
And Courtney, I don't know, when I first started with my little hoot business a few years ago, I downloaded an app that actually like generated my audience, and it kind of gave me this range. I don't use it anymore. Do you tell people, do you think that's a good idea to have people ever use those kind of apps to pull in?
I think there's a lot of tools out there. It's hard to say exactly, what's best for everyone, because I think we're all coming at this from different priorities, different objectives for our campaigns, and different organizations, to be frank. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge believer in using any of the tools that are available out there. I hear from a lot of people that they have to play around and figure out which tool is ultimately best for them. And sometimes, it's worth paying $10 or $20 a month if you find the ideal tool, right? But yeah, I mean, anything to keep that to like 30 minutes a day if you literally are a small business owner and like you need to blow balloons up, right? And you're also a mom and you have families. And I think that, successfully navigating social media and social media management and time management is a real struggle. So I love to hear, Colleen, actually, that you turn off notifications and you recognize the value in that, because, I find myself, especially working a lot, teaching both of my classes this semester from home. My kids get home from school and they're like, I mean, really? Like, this is what you're going to do? I am still working, right? But I think it's really important, because I hear a lot of people that work in social, they get burned out easily, or, if you're struggling for creative ideas, sometimes you need to turn it all off. And if you have a tool or an app that can help you in doing that, and scheduling posts like on the weekend or at least a few days a week where you can have that kind of break from social, I think that's incredibly important too.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll try to tackle that question from, I don't know if it's Angel or Ankhed. So yeah, amen. Retweet Laura. Everybody does need to have it. When it comes to authentic storytelling, that is probably going to be a struggle if your leadership can't get behind it. What I do is I find examples of where it's worked before. So I would find similar businesses to your business. I do a lot of Googling, and I'd say, look at how it's working for this business, right? Look at how they're succeeding, especially if they're a competitor in the same market, and you can use that possibly to influence. I know what I do. Like, I personally, I'm a storyteller, a long form storyteller. It's like, long, boring stories. So like, my wife is like, why couldn't you have told this in half the amount of words, right? Like, what I do is I keep a folder in my Outlook, or like if I get praise on something that I've done or a story that I've told or the university's told, like I keep it. That way I've got that, for next time to be like, look at when it's worked and look at some of the positive response that we've gotten. I really do believe that like people first storytelling is the most powerful. I think we have a phoniness detector in us. Like when I see a political ad, I can immediately be like, phony, that's phony, right? Like we can tell when something's BS. And so as long as you make sure that you're not like pushing hard on an agenda, right? That you're not like triggering somebody's like BS detector, I think, it can work, right? So that's my best crack at it. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me, but we just had a weird incident where I had wanted to make a post for, I believe it was Women's Equality Day. And the photo depicted suffragettes protesting, and it just, for some reason, leadership was very reluctant to share that, which on one level I get, but on the other hand, it seemed like a missed opportunity in some ways.
Yeah, I get that. And I think we run into that issue at every level at the university. I'm on the board of directors of a local nonprofit, Centro Hispano, and like we've had to have that conversation too of when we post and when we say something. I'd be happy to like continue this conversation with you if you want later. This is a topic that I love. So there you go, in case you want to chat about it more later.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions for our panel of experts today? And you can unmute yourself. You should be able to at this point if you'd rather do that than type it in the chat.
So I really liked the Bloom Garden name, and I was curious if there's a story about that, or if you had to kind of get creative for either like finding your proper handle on Instagram and Facebook and everything, or if you have advice for naming a business in general.
Well, it's actually funny. Ashley's husband kind of came up with the name, the Balloon Garden.
He ex-nayed a lot of our
yeah,
original
we had
ideas.
a lot of ideas. We live on Fern Meadow and we live across the street from each other. So we were like, what about Balloon Meadow? Like something to bring it back to like where we started. And then,
but we always knew we wanted balloons in it
Yeah.
because we didn't want it to be obvious with what
well,
business
our
is.
original was Up, Up and Away, but about 3,000 other people also have that name. So that was out. And then both of our dads separately thought, because we're making 3-foot mega balloons, that we should name it Big Ass Balloons. And we thought that was great, but that's not so good to have on tags at a birthday party. So that got vetoed. So we just kind of played around, and we were like, it really does look like it's beautiful, like a garden. And so it's our version of a floral garden in balloons. And that's kind of where we went with that direction. So,
but yeah, I mean, as for any advice, and I feel like we stated this in social media and really with anything, just make it obvious.
And make it obvious and make sure you really love it. Because once you build your reputation around your business, it's when, I've seen people change their name midway through, and it's a huge hiccup, and you have to kind of rebuild from that. So make sure whatever name you do pick for a business, it is relative, it's clear, and you really love it.
Yeah. And one of the first things we did too was to make sure that the website domain was available, and we went on and immediately captured social media handles, the website domain. So like we've said, even though we don't have a website yet, we own balloongarden.com. So yeah, that is our advice.
Amazing, especially getting the .com in 2020.
Thanks, it's been fun.
Well, thank you all so much. I don't see any more questions coming through in the chat. So really appreciate your time. It's been a wonderful webinar. Thank you all for giving us all the insight and information, wisdom about social media and storytelling. It's been great. And this will be, this is being recorded, so we're going to post this online as well. So if you want to come back and rewatch, and maybe you missed a portion to go make a snack or something, that it's going to be available to watch hopefully by next week. And we should be sending out notifications on that as well. So thank you all again. Thanks for attending, and hopefully we'll see you at another webinar coming up.
Thank you.
Thanks
We
all.
loved it.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.